Ladies and gentlemen, how's everybody doing? Peace to everybody out here. And this video, as you can see, it has to do with various topics. Hope is one of the topics. A really awesome topic, trust me. And also, we're also looking at the results for the middleweight fight between uh, Danny Jacobs and uh, Sergey uh, Deryanchenko. So that's awesome. As well as we're going to look at also the fight between Kubrat Pulev and Hughie Fury for the #1 contender to the IBF title. So we'll look at those as well as I'm going to comment on some other things. I'm going to also comment a little bit on this video concerning Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence, a revision of that matchup and what I think about that. And also I'm going to look also at the fight between Adonis Stevenson and the TMT fighter Badu Jack. Okay, so all of that we want to look at and talk a little bit about today. As you know, you can leave your comments in the comment section. You can leave your comments in the comment section. I won't have a problem with that. If you want to join the chat, just let me know, and I will set up everything so you can join the chat. So first of all, let's talk about the fight between Kubrat Pulev and Hughie Fury. But before I do so, I want to discuss hope for a little bit. Psalms 134 says, "Behold, blessed be the Lord, all you servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless the Lord. The Lord that made heaven and earth. Bless you out of Zion." And this is interesting. What does this have to do with hope? Notice this is a collective that's praising the Lord here. They're called the servants of the Lord. They're called the saints of the Lord. And it's inside of the Lord's sanctuary. Sanctuary is a place of rest, a resting place, like a refuge, you know. And so for me, this is beautiful because it's basically covering the rest of the Lord, you know, the haven of the Lord, if I were to say it a little bit differently. So I find that a very comforting thing. And therein lies the hope. Psalms 133 says, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." Now it shows us that the haven of the Lord is a place for a gathering of all the brethren, all the people that believe. And that's what makes it also a haven, a rest. It's like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. And it's interesting that it would talk about the priestly robes and just the priesthood of Aaron, and this dwelling together in unity, this dwelling together in love is sort of a priestly thing. In fact, we're called the kingdom of priests as Christians. So I found this to be very comforting this morning as I read it. I haven't read a lot of scripture today, and I did pray about certain things, but I didn't read a lot of scripture today. But I asked the Lord to right now, Lord, to just please set people into their purpose, into their purpose of what they are supposed to do every day, so that they would be a blessing to as many people as possible. Let's talk the boxing. So like we said, when you look at the boxing, Kubrat Pulev versus Hughie Fury, I actually watched some glimpses of the fight. It's kind of boring, but nonetheless, Kubrat Pulev really had a really great jab. He was catching Fury with some really good left hooks. And downright, I can see why unanimously he won that fight. And so Pulev now has pulled ahead of Hughie Fury. Fury did land a couple of shots in there, but really he was not as active as Pulev with his jab. And basically, Pulev was sticking the jab most of the time. There was some feints what Pulev did before he would come in, but Pulev basically used that shotgun jab and came in behind it. He would double it, triple it sometimes to come inside. Hughie Fury would pull back, snap back, you know, use his footwork and stuff. But Pulev still caught him in the head a couple of times. and was a bit deceptively quick with his jab. He varied the speed of his jab and that kind of thing, you know, and he would sometimes use probing jabs. It was a typical European fight, though. But once again, Pulev really did pull ahead. I didn't talk about this match in my predictions for what was upcoming. I mostly focused on the HBO card, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I thought this was just interesting to share with you guys. All right. Let me go to the next one. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Just gotta find the right thing to say. There you go. Okay, so when we look in BoxRec, we know that Danny Jacobs, he had his fight with he had a recent fight with Sergey, and this was at middleweight. He had a recent fight with Sergey Deryanchenko. Okay, Danny Jacobs faced off with Sergey Deryanchenko. Now, as I said before, I picked Daniel Jacobs to win that fight, and he did win the fight. It was a closer decision than people thought. It was a split decision. When I listened to the commentators, they made it sound like it was a closer fight than it was. I didn't see the entire fight. I saw glimpses and highlights of the fight. But, again, Deryanchenko did handle his stories, even though he has 12 fights. He was a very worthy competitor. It was a beautiful fight to watch because there was a lot of defense and a lot of skill in that fight. And I think that if Deryanchenko had a couple more, if he had a couple more fights under his belt, I think, and some step-up fights under his belt, I think he would have been ready for Daniel Jacobs. But like I said, Daniel Jacobs had a lot more championship experience at the pro level. Deryanchenko had more of amateur experience. Deryanchenko, Danny Jacobs did all kinds of things. He switched stance. He did some beautiful things, moving out of the way. So did Deryanchenko. Really good defense by both guys. Lots of skill and ability. See Daniel Jacobs rolling a lot of Daniel Jacobs rolling a lot of Sergey's shots. Sergey bobbing and weaving under, dipping under a lot of Daniel's shots. So it was really a good fight. I enjoyed it. I thought Daniel Jacobs won. So once again, I mean, you know, this is the kind of boxing you want. That standard was really high on HBO there. That final fight. Exciting as well. Some of the strategies and moves were kind of typical of boxers, but I still really enjoyed it. And, you know, it was a close fight. It was not a one-sided fight per se. I did think Daniel Jacobs got the nod, especially in the closing rounds. How he closed the show was pretty good, even though Sergey Deryanchenko really pushed him. You could see that both guys were acquainted with each other's style as well, which made it more interesting. But at the end of the day, Sergey Deryanchenko belongs in the upper echelon. He is a elite fighter, and you guys should not forget him. You know, there's another fighter I always remember, which is Adrian Granados. We haven't heard much about him since his fight with, I think it was Sean Porter. We haven't heard much from Adrian Granados. I mean, he got his first big shot. You know, way back in the day, he fought at super lightweight, upset the up-and-comer at the time. I think the up-and-comer was, I forgot what his name is. He was the #1 contender. Adrian Granados beat him. And since then, you know, Adrian Granados has been very competitive. In his fight against Adrian Broner, he really put up a good fight. And then against Sean Porter, again, he put up a good fight, even though Sean Porter definitely got the better of him and was landing some pretty good shots. He was still pretty tough. And, you know, he was held his own against Sean Porter. And in this case, when we look at Sergey Deryanchenko, he holds his own in that division. I really like that, and I would like to see more of him. So hopefully he gets some other big fights, you know, maybe fight against a David Lemieux, or maybe against a Martin Murray, or maybe, you know, against a Willie Monroe, or maybe even against a Jason Quigley, which is Scott Quigley's bigger brother, or Luis Arias, or Hugo Centeno. You know, just I would love to see him in there once again. I think he has superior skills. He was in the Super 6, I think it was called, tournament, you know, and that's where, you know, we got to see him really good. And he's been, you know, he's been plugged in this pro career for a while. Been ducked and avoided by a number of different people. So, you know, I would love to see him face Gennady Golovkin. I think he's got all the skills to really deal with a Gennady Golovkin. So I would love to see that fight as well. So, you know, put him in there, put him in the mix. He's got a lot of skill. A lot of ability. I would love to see him do his thing up in there. Of course, slippery guys like Danny Jacobs, can nullify him, and especially Danny Jacobs sparred with him so many times. Danny Jacobs kind of knew what he was gonna come at him. So that's good. But Daniel Jacobs is now the IBF middleweight champion. It's now official. He's the IBF middleweight champion. Kudos to Danny Jacobs on that. Demetrius Andrade is the WBO middleweight champion. So we got Demetrius Andrade, who's a WBO middleweight champion when he beat Walter Catondoko. And now we have Canelo Alvarez, who's the WBC, WBA middleweight champion, right? Retaining his WBC crown that was stripped from him. He's now the WBC, WBA middleweight champion. And Billy Joe Saunders has forfeited his title, the WBO title, because he was found dirty. Okay, I don't know how true that is. VADA sometimes gives you false positives. So maybe Billy Joe Saunders is not dirty, because Canelo Alvarez was not found dirty when he faced Gennady Golovkin the second time. You just never know with this politics out here. Sometimes people play political games, make people come up dirty when they're not dirty. So I don't know. VADA's been kind of sketchy to me so far, but we're gonna watch and see. But anyway, Canelo, he faced up against Gennady Golovkin and won the WBC, WBA titles. Now we're looking at Jamal Charlo, who is a regular champion. Canelo is the super champion. We know that Rob Brandt just kind of broke the mold and beat Ryota Murata. I don't know why that's not updated yet. So the middleweight division is looking pretty excited. Remember, you can leave your comments in the comment section to your to the left right there. But honestly, just speaking honestly, so people would know, I would personally say that I love what the middleweight division is shaping up to be. We got some really good boxers in Danny Jacobs, who is looking probably to face Canelo next year, maybe at Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. It looks like Danny Jacobs is ready. That's a vacant spot, which is Canelo's time. So it would be nice if Canelo could face, Danny Jacobs. That would be awesome. A nice matchup. In the meantime, Canelo is going to be facing Rocky Fielding at the end of this year for the WBA title, the regular title. So he's going for a 168-pound title. I heard Gennady Golovkin's looking at maybe 168 pounds to vie for somebody up in there. I don't know who. But definitely Canelo is going up to face Rocky Fielding. Of course, Oscar De La Hoya is a little bit nervous about that because Rocky Fielding's a pretty big guy. And he can box a bit, European style again. It would be interesting to see how Canelo deals with that. We'll see. But at the end of the day, much bigger guys, much bigger weight class. It would be interesting how Canelo handles that. And just in case Canelo's decided to go up into that division, there are people such as Anthony Durrell, David Benavidez, Gilberto Ramirez, who's there, Jesse Hart. We got Caleb Plant, Anthony Durrell. We got Peter Quillen up in there, Caleb Truax, Andre Durrell, Arthur Abraham. We have Najib Mohammadi, George Groves, Chris Eubank Jr. We got all those guys up in that division. So that's pretty loaded as well. So whether Canelo wants to move up in weight, which I hope he doesn't do, I hope he stays down at middleweight, faces guys like, especially Danny Jacobs next year. I hope he faces Danny Jacobs next year and then probably finishes it off facing Demetrius Andrade. So he can face all the world champions. There's also Jamal Charlo, Martin Murray, David Lemieux, Rob Brandt, Martin Murray, you got all those guys up in there. So, it's a kicking banging division. Then you got the upcomers like Luis Arias, Jason Quigley, if he wants to just try his hand at Willie Monroe. But you got all those guys up in there that he can face. And if he wants to go up to 168, he can face, like I said, all these guys up here. So, yeah, when we're talking about the #1 middleweight in the world is right now, Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's the guy that's ranked #1. I heard Matchroom Boxing said Danny Jacobs is the #1 middleweight in the world as far as they believe. That's interesting. Demetrius Andrade's up there in the top 10. So, this is the ranking so far. I wanted to show you something that happened. I thought nobody was going to get knocked out in that fight. Nobody got knocked out in that fight, so that's pretty awesome. Let's go to Daniel Jacobs for a second here. So Danny Jacobs was successfully won that fight. Event. And here's what happened here. I picked all of the champions to beat the people. So Alberto Machado knocked out Dale Evans, so he's still champion, and Heather Hardy beat Shelly Vincent. So there you go. So Heather Hardy is now the WBO World Female Featherweight Champion, and Alberto Machado retains his title, knocking out Dale Evans in the first round, and he's the WBA Super Featherweight Champion. So I got all my picks correct for what I picked. If you guys looked at the predictions, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. Like I said to you guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence Jr. I just looked at Mikey and some of the fights that he was involved in, and I kind of come to the conclusion that Mikey doesn't do some of the things that he'll need to do if he has to face a guy like Errol Spence Jr. So after looking at what I've seen of Mikey, I'm not really impressed. I don't think I'm that impressed with what's going on with him. You know what I mean? So I got my concerns about that. I really do. I got my concerns about it. But we'll see how things go in terms of all of that. You know what I mean? So we'll see. The Legendary Boxer says, hope Jacobs goes back to PBC. Legendary Boxer says, GGG's promoter said he won't fight Charlo. The article's on boxingscene.com. All right, my dude. Shout out to you, Legendary Boxer. First of all, I didn't know you were up in there. I could only see one screen at a time. I'm now watching you, and I see what you say. Well, me personally, first of all, with regards to that, Jacobs, I think Jacobs is a free agent now, so he can stay with the Zone. He could be on PBZ and the Zone, maybe. It's free. It's free TV. PBC is more of a what you call it? It's more of a paid subscription service. But here's the thing I'm gonna tell you about that, right? PBC is free, so he could probably fight on PBC and still be on the Zone, just like how you could be on PBC and then on Showtime. You know what I mean? Showtime has nothing to do with PBC. You know what I mean? So you know, they're feeders for maybe subscription services. PBC is free television. The Zone is a subscription service like Showtime. So it should be interesting. But the cool thing is HBO Boxing has now been shut down. Jim Lampley, we don't have to study to see stupid Jim Lampley make silly comments anymore. He's not stupid, but I mean, the stupid comments he made, though, I'm tired of that and the racism and all that nonsense. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with Larry Marchitz anymore. They're out of the picture. And now we got people who actually talk about boxing and actually know boxing in the Zone or in you know, Showtime or on PBC. We actually have actual boxers commenting on the boxing, and I love that. You know what I mean? You know, I just want Jacobs. I think Jacobs is going to face Canelo. I don't think that would be a PBC fight. I think it'll be a Zone fight, maybe. So I'm looking forward to that, or Showbox. I don't know if they'll do Showbox, but whatever. Canelo's got a big contract with the Zone. So Jacobs versus Canelo would be really wonderful. That depends on if Canelo beats Rocky. What's the guy's name? Rocky Fielding, I think it is. Yeah, Rocky Fielding. If he beats Rocky Fielding, because Rocky Fielding is the WBA regular champ. Callum Smith is the WBA champ, super champ. That would be the one I would have loved Canelo to face. I don't know if Callum Smith has another fight, or he already fought this year and he doesn't want to fight again so early. That person Canelo could have faced was either David Benavidez or Gilberto Ramirez. Those are big dudes, though. They're much bigger than Canelo. But anyway, what I was saying is that, yeah, Danny Jacobs coming back and fighting. And his next open slot is May 5th, which is around the time when Canelo fights as well, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. So I'm thinking Danny Jacobs is probably going to be lined up to face Canelo if Canelo gets by Rocky Fielding. I say if because you just never know what happens in boxing. You know, Rocky Fielding is a big dude, 6'6", whatever, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". Canelo's only 5'10" or 5'11", something like that. Of course, height has nothing to do with it. We just saw that Danny Jacobs faced up against Sergey Deryanchenko, and Deryanchenko held his own against Danny Jacobs. So, height doesn't really mean everything. But it's still an interesting fight. I would love to see how Canelo fares at that super middleweight. He has been at a catchweight at super middleweight. I believe it was 164 he was at when he faced Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So to go all the way up to 168 with a strong super middleweight should be interesting. It should be very interesting, and see if Canelo can handle that. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Danny Jacobs, that would be nice. What I wanted to talk to you guys about, I said Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence Jr. So like I said before, I saw that Mikey Garcia doesn't really dip. He doesn't really angle himself very well sometimes for certain shots. It's kind of very straightforward. So with that, I don't really see how he can beat Errol Spence Jr. I think he's a little bit delusional on that. Watching him box and realize that he doesn't really use that much footwork. He fights at one level. Doesn't use dips and slips. He does split the defense sometimes, but he's not the fastest dude in the world. I just think Errol Spence is too much for him. That's what I really think. I think Errol Spence will finish him off rather quickly. Yeah. Don't get it twisted. Broner can fight, but no, Broner tends to pop you and then kind of remove back. Broner versus Pacquiao would be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. I think Pacquiao beats Broner. It's because Broner's slippery. He has some footwork. That's good, but he can't be just moving like that all the way through the fight. Whereas Pacquiao can do that. Excuse my yawn. I am sleepy. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was Battle Jack. Let me get to Battle Jack here. Hold on a second. Hold on one second. Just getting back to Battle Jack here. I gotta say, Battle Jack, it's kind of unfortunate that he doesn't get the nod. It's called the Ripper. It's unfortunate he doesn't get the nod for a lot of his fights, man. This guy has done a phenomenal job as a boxer. And his last fight was against Adonis Stevenson, in which he really beat up Stevenson, and I thought that he won the fight. I'm with Jesse Rez. 115, 113. He took the last 2 rounds to really take that lead. But he got a majority decision draw. And this is not the first time this is done to him. It was also done to him with James DeGale and Lucian Bute of recent times. And Bute was eventually disqualified for failing a drug doping test. But for the most part, man, this guy has been awesome, man. And I think I argue he won every single fight they gave him a draw with. The Bute fight, the DeGale fight, I thought he won, and he dropped DeGale in round 12, and Adonis Stevenson fight, I thought he won. Busted up Adonis Stevenson's face, man. And Adonis Stevenson wasn't pushing him back, especially at the late rounds. A guy like Porter would push you to the ropes and just start wailing on you. Adonis Stevenson doesn't have 2 hands. He's one hand. He'll shoot that jab at you. That's all you were. So So, what do you guys have to say in the comment section? Leave your comments in the comment section, in the chat section. Let me hear what you guys got to say. By the way, Jack has a pretty illustrious career, man, so far. First, he won the WBC super middleweight title from Anthony Durrell. Then he defended against George Burroughs. And then he defended it yet again against Lucian Butte. It was at first accorded a draw and then later on adjusted because Butte failed the drug test. Then he faced James DeGale, where he was supposed to get the IBF along with unify the IBF along with his WBC title. That was ruled a draw, even though he dropped DeGale in the 12th round, in which he should have won that fight. But one of the Bulls tripped him down. Yeah. I'll remain silent for a minute. I'm going to check and see what you guys got to say. Yes, I did nod off on the ticker 5. In the middle of that, I wasn't saying anything. See what you guys saying. I'm not going to lie to you guys, man. I am tired. I'm sleepy. So every now and then I nod off in the middle of stuff. Don't feel how about it. You guys talk to me, man. Talk to me. Yeah. Talk to me. What you guys want to talk about in boxing? Talk to me. Yeah. Legendary boxing, man. What's going on? What's up? Talk to me, people. Yeah, folks. I'm kind of sleepy. I'll up in my bed after this. You guys got nothing to say? Nothing to say at all? No worries. Peace to you guys, man. I'm out.